It's a height thing. See?
I'm sorry, I did not.
I could do that too. Let's see what they. Sometimes
See, the
people say
problem
we
is
can't.
these
There is a hand mic.
are recorded,
So you have to.
and you have to
Okay.
speak into the microphone.
Here,
All right,
here.
do that.
So, oh. There you go.
A solution, like right around the corner.
You know, yeah, I don't think about vertically challenged.
Well, I said something to Colin, and he just looked at me like, "What?"
Hopefully these batteries work.
We can do a quick test. If they do, is someone else sitting here?
No, you're welcome to sit.
Because I'm just thinking if we
Yeah,
do,
you're
then
welcome
we
to
can
sit
just
there.
use the mic.
The
But I wanna
only
make sure-
thing you'll need to be able to advance your slides.
I do have
Of
a
course, no.
slide clicker.
Oh, that would be great.
Let me just. I'm gonna pull the slide clicker. We can sit here, and I can
I
get
don't
the
know
slide
why this
clicker.
is.
Hopefully there's an extra USB port here.
Uh-oh. It looks like it's been on this entire time. Let's see if it's.
Yep, it works.
Perfect. And please don't forget your...
Thingy McBob.
Your
Because it's not
thingy-mabop.
even mine. The only reason I have to use it is because one of my clients who left it.
Well, it sounds like yours then.
Ooh. No, I have the Cedar Westmoreland account. So this is good because I can just hand it to you.
Okay. Someone on the phone? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to get the Economic Development Committee meeting started. And at this time, it'd be courtesy of the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to make one quick point under courtesy of the floor. As we've all read, the Da Vinci Center has pulled up stakes, and Critter World will no longer be at the bottom at the bottom of the hill here. So what? I can go outside and
Was
see
that
the stuff that they were going to put in cages. Anyway, what that means is that we are now collecting the hotel tax 2005 with no specific purpose. And at this time, according to the budget, there will be, for 2019, $734,200 listed under future grants. So that would be on page 104 of the budget summary that came out. I guess why I'm bringing this up is that we are continuing to collect the tax, the hotel tax 2005, for which we have no purpose. And I think if there is no purpose, we should not be collecting the tax. And if we are collecting the tax, we should find a purpose that this council and this administration deems worthy of continuing to take travelers' money when they lodge in Northampton County. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
That's it.
What do you think we should? Okay.
The banana factory, isn't that, aren't they coming to us for something?
Yeah,
They're getting a lot of money.
it is my understanding that they are receiving money as part of the state.
A lot of money.
It is such a worthy endeavor there, right? What goes on there, tremendous. Banana
The
factory,
banana
and the
factory,
state, the state has recognized it. I think $10 million in 10 years, or they got lots of money. Don't worry about that, Ms. Farrar. Don't worry about that. They're good.
Does that satisfy your answer?
No.
No. No. Well,
Well,
They-
it comes
they-
from
they-
state
maybe we'll-
gaming.
The banana factory has a lot of money, and I would just point out there were some plans. You had a plan yourself for this 2005 money not too long ago, so
I certainly did.
you did.
And I still have a plan for that Da Vinci Center.
There you go.
For the first
Uh-oh.
time ever,
Well, so-
we're getting
so-
something educational instead of letting me entertain.
Mrs. Farrar, I agree. Mrs. Farrar, I agree with you. But that is an answer.
Why you did.
thank you for your comment.
You can't make me sit this many hours.
Thank you for your comment. If nobody else has any public comment, or if there's any comment from the council, we're going to move into the presentation of the draft blight strategy plan. Mr. Hartney.
Thank you very much. What you have in front of you, the thicker packet, is a copy of the draft plan. And then I've also given a copy of the presentation that our consultants, the Reinvestment Fund and May 8 Consulting, are going to be giving to you. This is essentially the end, or we're coming to the end of the consultant process of this. So this is really essentially the last time you will see the consultants. And based on your input on their recommendations, we will then be carrying forward what you guys think is important with this blight strategy. So, this has been a long process. We've engaged a lot of municipalities, and I think our consultants have done a really good job. We've done this in partnership with the Planning Commission, and so we would ask that if you have any comments or questions, that you get back to us in the next week or two. We're happy to talk about it with you further, but we want to try to finalize this plan so that we can start implementing it. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Karen Black from May 8 Consulting.
Does
to
this
go
mic
over the
work?
recommendations.
Yes.
Can she not go up there?
Is it better?
Well, I'm just,
You can.
you can do whichever you want.
You tell me. Can everyone see me if I'm up here? Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
So what I'm going to do is speed through some slides because you have them in front of you, and we really want to hear your questions. But in this process, we have talked to an awful lot of municipal leaders, and all of them really want to reduce blight and improve quality of life in their communities, and they certainly understand the connection between that eyesore in their community and low property values and problems selling properties and people not feeling good about their neighborhood. And so we started this actually with a quick survey of the leaders. And what we found out was their biggest issue was vacant commercial properties, but they have also a problem with foreclosed properties. And this is in the plan, a little bigger so you can read it. They're using a diverse set of tools in order to address them, including code enforcement, but they're also, when they've got bad actors who just aren't paying any attention to the code citations, they're starting to use some other tools. Pennsylvania passed 14 new tools since 2004. And interestingly, their biggest issue is the cooperation of the property owner. The property owners are ignoring them, and they need to get their attention. And another issue on this last survey slide, before I turn it over to Colin, who's going to come up, is that they are still using paper filing. They are still taking their code enforcements in triplicate. Some of them have them in index cards. There is no database. There is no way to show a record. When they go in front of a magistrate and they say, this person was a bad actor, this property has not been cared for 10 years, they cannot document that journey that they've taken because they just don't have the technology to do it. And this is really important because if you recall, you're coming up, I'm handing this over, we have been looking at the different markets in the different municipalities.
So,
Can you just identify yourself? I know.
sure. My name is Colin Whiting, and I work with the Reinvestment Fund.
Thank you.
And so our part of this, and last time we were before council, we talked about the market value analysis process.
Yes.
And essentially
Feel
what
free
the,
to pull that microphone up
is
to
that
you.
better? Essentially what the market value analysis is a collection of local administrative data that tells you a wide variety of things about your housing market. So things like, what is the value in the housing market? What are some of the stressors on the housing market? And where are people making investments through permitting activity and the like? And we take that constellation of data, and it's all local administrative data collected here by the county or different authorities within the county. And we geocode that down to an address level, and we compare it across the county to create a typology of different market types. That's the map that you're seeing right here. So each of those colors represents a market type, where if you're in one part of the county and you're in a purple market, and then go to a whole other part of the county and to another purple market, essentially those places will be very comparable across that whole set of data that we've collected. And those gray areas, for your reference, are non-residential areas.
Were they like
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
like industrial zones or?
Yeah, industrial, commercial, anything that's 50,000 square feet or larger and
Or
is a
county-owned?
non-residential use. It can be a mix. It can
Okay.
be private or county-owned. And so you'll see there's the map, and there's also some closer looks at Easton and Bethlehem, so you can get a little more fine-grained look at some of those places, because your block groups in the county range from very small places to quite large places that span many acres. So what those colors on the map represent is that whole collection of data that I mentioned just now. So these are the different data points that we collected. And for each of those colors, you can essentially reference this chart and understand what those colors represents. So those A markets are your highest value markets throughout the county. They're also the places where the most development activity is going on throughout the county. You'll see as you look down the row for that chart that both in terms of the total area of new development and the percentage of new development, that's really where a lot of the investment is going into the counties. So each of these different colors represents a different constellation of activities that are going on in a place, so that when you're thinking about how to intervene in a place, you can suit each intervention to what's going on in that particular place. Part of this process was that we asked the municipalities to give us lists of problem properties that they've been working with through a sort of blight process. And many of them participated, not all, so you'll see that we've got pretty good representation on the map, and each of those is mapped over that market value analysis. And what you'll find is that problem properties exist in every market type throughout the county. This is not just a most distressed market type thing. This is an everywhere thing. And that thing on the left there, the chart, will give you a reference for the different types of problem properties. You'll notice there's also a wide range in the uses of these problem properties. So there's many single-family residential properties, but there are also some industrial uses and some commercial uses. So it's really a wide variety of things that are causing some of these blight problems throughout the county.
Can I just interrupt you for
Sure.
1 minute? Just a disclaimer. If maybe the next time you could go on one page per block, because we're really struggling.
Per
Okay.
map?
Yeah. And then also, because you can't really quite, I mean, I can see the colors, but the
Right.
numbers are tough, so.
Yeah, it can be.
You know what I mean?
It can be
And I'm
very
sure if I'm having
close-knit.
trouble, everybody is, because I really want to
Sure.
follow along. The other, and it's fine. And actually, the other is you guys did send you did send it in an email, which I appreciate. I got that today, so thank you for
Okay,
that.
great.
So which and I don't want to interrupt you. I want you to keep going through. But you said some people didn't participate. Do you have a list of who didn't participate? And you said some of the townships and boroughs didn't participate in the information that you were collecting from them.
The only part, I should be clear, the only part they didn't participate in was just in this problem properties list. That we have
problem-
data for the market value analysis for the entire county.
So everybody participated. It's
In-
just
in
the
market
problem
value analysis, just the
property
problem
list.
properties that didn't have, but I think they're moving towards trying to get everyone to participate so that there'll be a list that includes the whole county and all the
Like
municipalities.
say a percentage of the ones that didn't
That's a
give
good
the problem properties?
So there's no, one of the challenges that we found in working with them, these municipalities don't, outside of the two cities, don't have a formal process to identify problem properties. They don't have a process to certify something blighted or something like that, that's a little more like by a law. So we basically said, give us your top 5 problem properties, and we'll continue to work with the municipalities to identify those, because they'll change over time as they.
So you did get the top 5 out of everybody?
No.
No.
Only a certain number responded.
I mean, I'd be interested to see who didn't respond. I mean, that's interesting. Because this was a funded study, and there was a lot of money involved in this study, and they should have the input. Okay, thank you.
And one other thing I'd just like to say about the maps is that all the data that we've collected will flow back to the county, so that any maps that you'd like, your GIS department will be able to make maps either zoomed in or county level.
Great, thank you.
Sure. So I'm going to turn it back over to Karen to talk about recommendations.
I just have to yank down the mic about 1.5 feet. So everyone who's been involved in this process has been very clear that blight is an issue and they want new tools to fight it. And they need to understand what they're allowed to do under state law. And in our initial interviews, folks were saying all sorts of things. We aren't allowed to go on sidewalks. We aren't allowed to do this. And so some of this has just been clarifying what the law allows. And so the first part of this whole discussion with the task force has been municipal tools, and that's what this slide is. These are all things that the state allows that most municipalities haven't been taking advantage of. And the next slide, just so you know, is what the county could do. So let me just take a very small amount of time on the municipalities. Most of them have been doing complaint-driven code enforcement. It's like getting calls about potholes. They go and they fill in that pothole and they wait for the next call. It's great, but you're never going to have good streets. If you want your buildings taken care of, you say on a 3-year cycle, we are going to go to every vacant property, every rental property, and we're going to check its status. It's much more cost effective. It is far more effective at lifting up the condition of the properties. We're talking to them about how they can do that, and it's being used throughout the state. So we're actually telling them to adopt something that other places have adopted. It's really important that they know where their vacant properties are, and they can require owners to register them, to pay a fee, and to submit a plan for how they're going to reactivate them. And if they submit that plan for what they're going to do, the fee gets waived. But it starts that communication going. For closed property registration, there are for-profit companies that have all the contacts at the banks. So you have a Wells Fargo foreclosure. They know to call Karen at Wells Fargo, and they will do all the work for half the fee that you charge. So in other words, I'm a municipality. I say, if it's a foreclosed property, you have to pay a foreclosed property fee lender of $50, as well as taking care of your property. The municipality gets $25. The for-profit that does all the work does $25. There's no downside. And yet many of the municipalities that Mark and the Planning Commission gathered had never heard of it. So some of it is just educating. Shared code enforcement, really important. When we asked them about code enforcement, several of them said it's really hard to do because you don't want to cite your mother's best friend. And I'm with you. But if you share code enforcement so that you have code enforcers who work in multiple jurisdictions, you can get around that because they aren't as familiar with the population, and you can get more capacity, and again, it's more cost effective. Doors and windows. This has been upheld by the courts. A municipality has the right to say no plywood, no masonry. We want real doors on buildings. We want real windows on buildings so they don't look forlorn and they aren't such an eyesore. And if you don't do that, and this is a real case that went to court in Pennsylvania, you are going to pay $300 per day per opening. For every open window or open door that has plywood in it, $300 a day. And it's not that you're going to end up collecting most of those fines, but it sure gets the owner's attention, particularly out-of-state owners. So these are all different tools that you're able to use under law, and we've spent a lot of time educating the municipalities. Yeah.
So I think we'd all agree, especially when it comes to vacant or absentee landlords, going after these properties. So I know we're looking at resources and tools for the municipalities and for us. What is out there for a home that a senior is in, and it may be considered blight by some standards, and it's strictly an income level issue for them, what resources and programs are out there then to help them.
That's a perfect segue, thank you. So, we're just going to skip right down to number 6 for a second here. So, most jurisdictions in Pennsylvania have some kind of a home repair grant fund. Whether it's just for seniors, it's just for accessibility, it's just for emergencies, but they have some. And in most places, it's all the money's gone within the first 3 months of the fiscal year. So what I've been working with several places on are home repair loan funds. And let me just give you an example of a place we studied, the south side section of Bethlehem. In this area, thousands of people apply for home repair loans. The denial rate is 70%. 70% of those who are applying are denied. And here's the amazing thing we found. If Colin and I have the exact same income, live in the exact same neighborhood, both apply for a loan, and I want $10,000 to fix my roof and he wants $40,000 to put on an addition, he gets his loan. Because they, as lenders, don't want to be bothered with small loans. So it's not that my credit's bad, and it's not that I can't afford to pay it back. So what we've been working on is systems where the county or the municipality basically are guaranteeing loans and asking the lender to extend credit for these small loans. And it's been working. And just an example, and this is an example that was studied out of state, but if anyone's been to Cleveland Heights outside of Cleveland, they put a certificate of deposit, a CD in Key Bank for $160,000, and they said, we will guarantee every small home repair loan you do so you will not lose money. And they have gotten $6 million worth of loans out over the years, just with that $160,000, and it's now $120,000. So they suffered some losses, but most of the losses were the person died. And how can you blame them? They didn't want to be gone. They wanted to pay it. So, looking at countywide tools, that would require either a community lender or a regular lender to partner. But we think that's really critical because there are people nobody who owns a home wants it to fall apart. They just can't afford it.
Can I interrupt you? Mr. Heckman has another question on the same topic.
If I missed this, I apologize. Are we talking, when you're talking about this program and doing it, are we talking about owner-occupied or just, for example, I live in somewhere in Edison, New Jersey, and I own 3 properties on the south side. Can I apply?
So not to most of these programs.
Okay.
The successful programs that I have seen and worked with are owner-occupied. There is one successful program in Chicago that worked with small landlords, but that's a very different model.
All right, that's what I'm glad, because I mean, I know my concern is for people who are owner and they're struggling, and you have situations where I know of a few where you go and help cut the grass because they just have no one, and they don't have anybody to help them. Whereas opposed to, we have, unfortunately, in the valley now, we're seeing more and more negligent landlords or LLCs that own properties, and I'm concerned about the lady or man in that property,
Exactly.
as opposed to the fellow who
No.
just wants to skim by it right above where he gets fined.
These are homeowners, and we've
Okay.
actually had some hospitals start asking every patient if they're a homeowner or a renter so that they can refer homeowners to this program. And one hospital that I've worked with has actually just decided that they're going to put out enough money to do 80 grants to their patients because the patients are costing them money, and they can help their asthma and chronic disease by fixing up their home.
That's smart.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a really good partnership. So some other options, let me just go to 7 so I don't forget it. The tax sale process, you have a good foreclosure process, but the municipalities report back that some bad actors who aren't taking care of their properties are going back to tax sale and buying more. You don't want them to buy more. So in places like Schuylkill County, to be eligible to even bid, you have to prove you've got no properties with code violations. And that's a property where you have an interest in an LLC. Or you're just disqualified.
Well, that makes sense.
The other thing is, we were really surprised that the repository, which are all the properties that went to tax sale and didn't get sold or auctioned off, they're primarily really small, undevelopable lots. And so we recommend that those small properties might be used for community gardens, might be used for side lots, but that we should openly market them and get them out of the repository, right? They can be used for something. They aren't worth a lot, but they're maybe worth a lot to the adjacent homeowner. So let's market them. I'm going back up to the top. In Pennsylvania, there are now a large number of land banks, and the state has said that an redevelopment authority can act as a land bank. They are agencies who just look at blight, that's their thing. But the most important thing they can do, in my mind, the most important power, is they can compete at tax sale without putting any cash down. They can use, quote, performance consideration, which means the land bank says, we will rehab this property for a good use and get it to a new owner. And that means they get to compete with those investors who may not be willing to take care of that property. It's a really important power, and land banks and redevelopment authorities now can also create a budget that makes them closer to self-financing by keeping a portion of the taxes for 5 years on the properties they reactivate. Mm-hmm. So it's something that Westmoreland and some other counties are having a lot of luck with. Educating magistrates. We're hearing again and again from municipalities that they're going in front of the magistrates, and the magistrates are saying this isn't important, this isn't worth my time, giving owners continuance after continuance. We think they need an education. We think that we just need to explain why this is important, how it's being done, and let them, as the judges, explain to the local government how they want them to package it, what information they want to see, so that we just have a better outcome. Technical legal assistance, there is a crazy amount of misinformation flowing around about what you can do or what you can't do. And so we couldn't put it in this plan, it's just too detailed, but Colin and I are lawyers, I'm sure there's many lawyers in this room. It would be really nice if every municipality had the same understanding of what the law allows and they can do. Demolition fund. The state said that any county can raise their recorder of deeds fee by up to $15. They can also do it $2, but up to $15, and that money would go for demolition of blighted properties. It has been an extraordinary boon for some counties that had some properties that just couldn't be saved, that their roof has been gone forever, rats are coming out, whatever. They can be prioritized, and that was one of the reasons for the county priority list. And there's a funding source specifically for it. And then that countywide blighted property list, we want to expand it and continue it. So those are the county tools that came up in our discussions and that other counties around Pennsylvania are using. And we kind of ranked a time frame for doing them and where you would find the money, whether they're self-financing or not, and then in what markets they work, because all of Colin's work in the reinvestment fund has been to say, you know what, if you are going to do a doors and window ordinance and say you've got to put doors and windows in your property, you don't want to do it in the poorest neighborhoods with low-income folks. You want to do it in those places where the person does have the financial capacity to do that. And so this kind of says, here are great tools, here's where you should use them. And we're ready to roll this out and release the plan. The municipal leaders today at a meeting said they were ready to start using them, and we started talking about what you would use in different scenarios. And we're here to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Great. Anybody have any questions?
I guess maybe my question, I don't know if you could answer it or the administration. You mentioned about the redevelopment authority, and I think GPA was one of the monikers you put up there. Well, we do have a GPA. Was that specifically directed towards our GPA, or I'm wondering if it would be the IDA or the GPA in Northampton County?
We did our research.
Yeah, and you can explain that, but it was my suggestion that owing to our recent past with authorities and the fact that we are seeking to reduce the number of authorities that we have in the county, I thought that maybe it was less than wise to propose to council to create another authority. And a redevelopment authority, it is more than, you know, simply an authority to deal with. They can do all kinds of stuff related to housing, and so it's in redevelopment. So I didn't think that we should be proposing that to council, but I'll allow an explanation as to how the GPA may work in that way, even though I'm not here tonight to advocate that to council.
Okay. So anytime you have something in place, use it. So we looked at the GPA. It absolutely has a mission where all of this fits in it and fighting blight. It could even potentially be used for eminent domain. It has that power, though it's never been used. The problem is that the most powerful thing a land bank can do is take properties that would normally go out at foreclosure to the highest bidder and take them and put them to the use you want them for, whether it's affordable housing or a new park or a new maker space for new businesses, and the GPA cannot do that. So that power is only given to land banks and redevelopment authorities that specifically register as land banks. So if that's what we want to do, if we actually want to gain more control over properties in foreclosure, it won't allow us to. That's its negative.
A question, municipalities with landlord, with rules that have adopted rules for landlords to kind of adhere to, so that, did you identify any of those during your study?
That already have it in place?
Yes.
Yes. We did.
So it is in this presentation.
It is, and it is the first one. It's the first of the bar chart slides. So 53% have rental registration, where they know who their landlords are and they're able to set out rules. The problem is many of those, less than half of the landlords actually register. And they don't check it and they don't enforce the rule. So they have it in place, and I think that's, in the blight field that I work in all across the country, it's not that we don't have the laws on the books, it's that there's not the enforcement to do it. And so if we get to the point where we're going to every rental property every 3 years, we start to see this. What one county did in Pennsylvania that I thought was wonderful, actually, is before someone can get water turned on at their property, they have to show they're registered as a rental, because rental properties often have their water turned on and off. So it was just a coordination. The utility told the people who had the rental registration, and they say this is not a legal landlord, and therefore they don't get their water turned on. There are 2 places in Pennsylvania that will not allow you to evict a tenant unless you are a registered landlord. And so landlords are not registering, but the minute they need to evict someone, they're registering them that moment, and then you know who they are. So if they want to take advantage of public services, well, they have to follow the rules. And it's just a way to help make that happen. So we talked a lot about that. So even if they had it in place, we think we can make it better and work better for them.
Okay. And then the only other thing, I know you worked alongside with the Planning Commission, and I see those folks in the audience tonight. And I didn't know if you wanted to report on that, or if Mr. Hartney or Ms. Smith wanted to report on that, or just their role, so their role in this whole blight study thing.
Do you want to?
Hi everyone, I'm Tracy Oskovich. I work for Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. I'm Director of Development, and we're just really happy to partner with the county on this. We know that it's a need, and we're thrilled with the product that the consultants have brought to us. The data-driven analysis that they've done on blight in the county is going to be so useful for the administration as well as ourselves to help figure out what's best for the communities and how best to help them. This is really great.
Was this the first blight study that the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission did with our county, or?
I know of no historical blight study other than the city of Bethlehem's in the entire Lehigh Valley.
Okay, great. Thank you, and thanks for, oh yeah, question.
I just want to know, the reference was made to the redevelopment authorities, like the 2 cities they both have redevelopment authorities, and I was wondering about the overlap. And you'd probably be involved, especially though on the other side with municipalities. We know about manpower. I mean, most municipalities they don't have anybody to do a lot of things other than clear a road or throw sand in a pothole. So, I mean, the thing is, I'm just wondering, how they would get help with this, or how this could benefit them. I mean, even if something's made available to them, they may not have the manpower to do it or handle it.
Are you asking about the city redevelopment authorities, how they would be helpful?
Well,
Was that
no, I mean, the cities have their redevelopment authorities, and so I don't know how, if they, vis-a-vis the city government versus the redevelopment authority, how that could work with what you're talking about. But on the other hand, there's a separate issue, I guess, which is everything that you've mentioned, the municipalities, I'm just wondering how they could take advantage of it in the sense that they don't really have, I mean, you write up comprehensive zoning plans, and some of them go with it, some of them don't. I think I could see a problem there, that's all, and I just wondered, that's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Sure.
Bill? Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I just, I'm
Answer your
just
question,
taking a
sorry.
quick chance at answering,
Go
and
ahead.
I'm hoping I'm doing it. First of all, when you originally said manpower, I thought you were talking at the county level, and I realized I forgot to say that the state legislation allows land banks to borrow existing employees from the Planning Commission, from there's no new employees needed, no new office space needed, no new requirements in order to use a land bank's power. But as for the municipalities, when we've talked to them, they've said, look, if we could show you these priority properties, and a land bank could help us find the owners, because some of them we can't even find, could help us to open up their estates because they died, there is no probate, it's just been in limbo, and a land bank can do that. If you can use the demolition fee to demolish the worst of the worst, there's a whole bunch of things that the land bank can do as a partner, and in many of the communities I work, the land bank works with these tiny municipalities who have part-time mayor and no manager, and they're able to go in and just deal with that one issue that's really plaguing the municipality,
So
and I think that's what they're
if I'm
doing.
following you, let's take a small municipality, Bath, the borough of Bath, which I think has 50 people. So they would say, if they wanted something taken care of, they would come to the land bank, which is essentially Planning Commission people that we're borrowing and paying through the fees of the land bank. So we sort of, it's like a bureaucracy that sort of hovers between the county and the, I'm trying to understand the mechanics of it, let's put it that way. And maybe
I think
I
if
shouldn't
we're going
be.
to explore that as an option,
Oh,
and I heard County Executive Clerk say that he's not really sure if that's where we want to head. We'd have to figure out what that structure might
and that's
look
down the
like. I
road.
don't think it's the
Okay.
same everywhere, and so that would be something that would require further investigation.
Bill?
Well, and the nice piece is, this was a big educational awareness for all the townships and boroughs and municipalities. So, and you brought a lot of information in from other places that work. That it works here, it works there, this is what works, this is what doesn't work. So, and I want to thank the Planning Commission for their part in it as well.
Absolutely. And just wanted to answer the one other part, and you asked about capacity at the municipal level, and we're going to be figuring out a way to take this educational toolkit out and help educate them, because a lot of it, as Karen had mentioned, is an educational issue, and we can help them figure out the capacity side of it. You're welcome.
Mr. Warner, question.
Thank you. Your analysis and your footwork theoretically is amazing. You did put a lot of time and effort, all of you did. My question is, what mechanisms or vehicles or way are you going to disseminate this information to the people now that you've got it all put together? What kind of package are you going to deliver, and how are you going to get it to those people, and how do you vet those people that are going to get those packages? Sorry, I had three questions. I didn't give just one.
A lot of the municipal education side, the municipal side, we're going to have a website within DCD that has links to all these tools, model ordinances where we have them, and it'll be a to-do item of different ordinances that we need to develop. So that information will exist online, and with the Planning Commission's help, we're going to go out and work with the individual municipalities on the strategies that they're interested in implementing at a local level.
So you're going to do a plane drop with mailers over these cities and just hope that people start to
Well,
grab
that's
this
part of
thing.
the role of we formed this blight task force. That's our link back to the municipalities to get this information out. And we'll use existing things like the COG to inform municipalities. And, to me, I call it the coalition of the willing, but it's the people that are interested in doing it. Like if you're a municipality and you don't have, or you don't think you have blight issues and it's not a priority to you, that's fine. Like, we're here to help the folks.
I think his broader question, though, was how are we planning on communicating it to the public at large? So I don't think he's terribly, he knows we'll communicate with the municipality. How are we going to explain this to the public that it's a problem? Because it's not a problem in every neighborhood.
Correct.
Thank you.
And a lot of that will be the dissemination of this plan once we approve it and put that out there.
I'm assuming you guys have a marketing leg that you'll be talking to about this and how you're going to do it, because that's what's going to happen, right? We're going to have to figure out how to put this out into the purview of everyone. So.
My concern with Bob is that lady that lives in her home, or that gentleman in his home,
Yeah.
we can get to the municipal leaders, but then how do they disseminate it down? I mean,
Yeah.
it's more almost a top down. How can we come up with a plan to go bottom up? Like, they put pressure on their municipal leaders. Sometimes that's the way you get things done. It is not depending on your elected officials, but I'm not saying anything.
Well, I think Mr. Warner's right, and Mr. President, you're right too. If we're going to invest substantial county dollars in any of these endeavors, we have to be able to explain to our taxpayers why it's important. And so I think you're absolutely right. There needs to be a strategy for that. I'm not certain that there is one right now.
One second. Ms. Farber.
Well, I think I'm on the same plane, but I guess the question is how to really implement the next steps, because it's
That's in the
great
plan.
information, it's a good tool, but then where does it go? Who takes the leadership? Is it a county? Is it is it DCED? Is it the Valley Planning Commission? Because it's like, boop.
Well, the administrative steps that we can take, we're going to take. And what we're going to do is evaluate, with respect to the county tools, the county toolkit. And we're going to evaluate what we can do on our own, what we need to come back to you for authorization to do. And these are the things that don't cost any money. There won't be any investment of dollars in the first instance, but they're administrative measures that can be taken in order to advance the ball. So we're already working on that.
And that's just a dovetail, so, Mr. Ekman talked about the, little lady that's living in a house so we get the tools in the municipality, so she gets a notice that her home's in blight. She doesn't know the tools that she has available to fix up that property. And so how do we make sure that we're not just giving municipalities the tools to go after the blight, the citizen living in that home has the resources to have programs to
The
fix it.
hospital
again,
awareness
that
and the
goes-
dissemination of the information through the.
There needs to be a better plan. There isn't one yet, not one that I've seen. But what I can say to be responsive to your question, for example, the tax sale process, we can do that now. That won't be without controversy, though. There will be frequent flyers at the tax sale process that do have some black marks on their history with respect to properties they own, and they get them cleared up, and then they come back. So you may have, although it's something I'm very interested in doing, you may have litigation over that. I can easily see that. Another one that I think, technical legal assistance. I think our solicitor's office can do that. I think they can put the manual together and distribute it. I don't think that's. I think that's support we can provide to the municipalities without a very heavy lift. And educating magistrates. We can go to the president judge because the president judge supervises magistrates in the county, and we can ask him permission to begin a dialogue with magistrates about why this is important too. So there's things we can do right off the bat in order to do this. The big things, though, are I think the things that are more difficult to do.
Do you have another question, Mr. Werner?
I'll defer to Tara.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that the goal of using these municipal tools isn't necessarily to take people out of their blighted home, but to improve their blighted home. Is that
No, and
correct?
as a matter of fact, I think one of the programs that we were talking about was one to keep people in it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like somebody would go to the little old lady and tell her that she needs to repair her house or else. They're going to give her the tools to be able to do that with these small loans, right?
Well, I don't think we should mix those. That's our.
There are really two different tracks. There's the municipalities track, and there's our track.
Okay.
And our track
But
would
are they running
generally be
parallel to
focused
each
on
other?
the wrongdoer, right? With
Yeah, like
the
that
absentee landlord.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where the county focus would properly lie.
But those two trajectories are parallel
They
to
are
each
running
other.
parallel, yes.
They're not necessarily intersecting, but they run parallel, but they're still protecting the homeowner to some extent, just not the absentee landlord.
Right.
And the ancillary
Right.
homeowners, I mean, everybody.
Well,
you know,
everybody around them. You're
one
trying to
bad
increase
penny on the
property value.
block could take the value down.
Now,
so.
remember, with the Planning Commission being our partner in this, they now have the final version of the study. They're just starting the Slate Belt multi-municipal plan. They can present it to the Slate Belt municipalities, and they can incorporate what they want within their new planning, right? And then they're updating the Nazareth municipal plan. They have the study. They can take it to them and say, hey, here's some things we can do if you want to do that.
Right, but when you look at the concentration of blighted properties, I mean, there are a couple in Penargil and Wind Gap and Bangor, but the concentrations are in Easton and Bethlehem City.
Yes.
You know, and that's,
Yes.
they have their
Mr.
own concentrations.
Mr. Hardy, do you have something?
I think the cities, you see more in the cities because they're larger.
Of course.
They have a formal process to identify blighted properties, but this issue is just as pervasive in the boroughs. It's just on a smaller scale.
And we have more of an ability to support the smaller municipalities and to affect change in them.
Right, but the cities already have a mechanism to address this, do they not?
Yes.
It is these rural properties that are sort of like outliers to all the resources.
The boroughs need our help, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And if I may add to that, this was what the other thing I was going to say was the implementation is what's critical. It's not, you can have any law in the books. We've seen what's happened with people just ignoring things,
Sure.
subpoenas and everything else. It's time for,
Yeah.
I mean, if we are going to be strong in doing this, these landlords, these absentee landlords, especially in Easton, I can talk specifically for Easton. I mean, first you have to find them. That's half the battle. Secondly is to define how you're going to attack them. And I hate to use that term, but that really, you have to go get them. So, yes.
Well, we had such a great example of that with, what is it, the Dixie Building?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where you couldn't track down the owner and everything's just being taxed and rolled up, right?
No, they know who the owner of the Dixie is.
But I mean, you can't.
we all know who that is.
But okay, but you can't track. But you can't track that person down to pay the back taxes. That was the deal, right?
He's current. I think they're current.
But they haven't done anything with it.
But they haven't done anything with the building.
Right. But I think they're current.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'll check that for you, but I think they are. I haven't heard that they're not.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for the county executive?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Hardy, did you have any more presentation? No? Okay, we have another item on the agenda. Okay. All right. Is there any other discussion on the blight? I just want to make a final comment. I think everybody involved did a great job, and the educational piece that came out of this, with the townships, the boroughs, the municipalities, is fantastic. And I love some of the tactics, with the water and also with the eviction thing. That's pretty good stuff. So, all right. Thank you.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
On the agenda, we also have a resolution. We're seeking approval of this resolution to complete the vouchering out of the CDBG program year 2014. DCED. We've been cleaning up some of the older balances with the goal to close out the years not only to 14, but 15 and 16 by the end of the year. We ran a process that included informing the public according to our county citizens participation plan. The activities that we selected in the resolution are all short duration projects, and we hope that you approve this resolution for us. Thank you. Questions?
Does anybody have any questions on the resolution? Mr. Kusin?
Yes, 2014 was obviously 5 years ago. What projects were canceled or didn't materialize that allowed this to monies to become available?
That's a great question. What happened with HUD? And this is our 10th year anniversary for our CDBG program. It started in 2009. A lot of these balances are way back in ancient history before my time. What happened is HUD put a new system in 2014 and collapsed a lot of these into 2014. So a lot of these programs are unspent balances, they're scraps from projects, money that hadn't been spent, all put in 2014, in which we found and want to put them to good use. So some of the projects date way back. So
are we in a use it or lose it situation, and we needed to find?
In the next year or so, yes, HUD would actually bring down 2014, so that if you don't use it, they would take it back. So we want to make sure that we get 14, 15, and 16 as a goal by the end of the year to make sure that we're compliant and bring all our balances forward.
Good, thank you.
Sounds like a plan.
Any other questions on the resolution in front of you? Okay, motion to move it forward to full vote.
I'll make a motion.
Question, I'm sorry?
I said I'll make a motion.
Oh, okay, thank you. Anyone
You're
else?
welcome.
All right, moving it forward to, I thought you said you had a question. I didn't know you said you had a motion.
I'll
Okay.
articulate myself.
All right,
a little
does
better
anybody
this
else
time.
have anything else for the Economic Development Committee today?
No.
Seeing none, then we'll call for adjournment.
Thank you.
Thank you. I thought you said I have a question.
No, I got it. I got this. Hey. Yeah. Da Vinci.